Welcome back, Renegade Family listeners, to Renegade Radio. This is Dr. Todd Gignac, your host, and today I'm excited to have a special guest, Dr. Dan Yachter. Dr. Dan is founder of Elevation Health, North Orlando, Florida. He is a pioneer in changing the way families think and the choices they make to grow and protect healthy families. He's been a mentor of mine. He has been my parents' chiropractor for going on a dozen, maybe even 13, 14 years now. My parents are both in their 70s. Neither of them take a single medication, and they're living healthy, active lives. And Dr. Dan will get into how that's possible. Dr. Dan also has a specialized training and certification in pediatrics, which he's extremely passionate about. So if you're a parent listening to this show or intend on becoming a parent, you're going to get a heap out of what Dr. Dan has to share with us today. So without further ado, let me bring on Dr. Dan. I don't know anybody more passionate about transforming lives, saving lives through the gift of information, health, chiropractic, nutrition, lifestyle, you name it. Let's get this show started.
Enough is enough.
I want the world to be the best place for my children.
You are not alone.
We need renegades to be part of this movement, and they're the ones that are going to change the world.
Welcome back to Renegade Radio, the podcast dedicated to the dissenters of the status quo, bringing you the mindset and strategies to build a healthier, happier, and stronger family, the Renegade way.
It's so important to be a renegade.
Dr. Dan, what's up?
Oh man, good stuff, brother. Just
happy birthday, mate. I'm dobbing you in. You're 22 today.
I take it. I'm liking those numbers,
you
man.
Look
so
and feel 21. That's 22. That's the main thing, right?
Hey man, the chiropractic lifestyle just keeps you feeling great on the inside and out, brother.
That's right. She works. So Dr. Dan, I've told our listeners a little bit about you. Can you tell us more, not only who you are as a person, but how you became Dr. Dan Yachter and a leader in your field, and how you've really excelled at serving the masses in your community, and just kind of how you went from A to where you are today?
Well, I've always had an interest in the healing arts. I've always had an interest in science, and when I was in 11th grade, or 10th grade actually, I had an opportunity to go to an after-school program. My grades were good enough, and it basically was a shadowing program. So you picked the profession that you were most interested in, and you had an opportunity to be placed, in that environment. And of course, I chose the hospital because I wanted to, I was interested in anatomy, and I just had an interest in becoming a doctor. So as early as 10th grade, I was following doctors around in the hospitals. I actually had an opportunity to go in and watch surgeries when I was in high school. It was pretty fascinating. So when I got accepted to the University of Florida,
whoop whoop,
I can go Gators. I continued that pursuit and that dream. The vision of going into the healing arts, possibly going into medicine, possibly doing surgery or whatever the case may be. And so I pursued a science degree and was going in that direction. I had even taken the MCATs and went on some interviews to some schools, medical schools. And along the way, something interesting happened. And this is going to be a little bit of backtrack, but I'll try to keep a long story as short as I possibly can. Along the way, just backtracking to my father. My father, this is kind of what the story revolves around. My father, he's 75 years old. When he was 7 years of age, he slid headfirst down a slide, and when he got to the bottom of the slide, his head rammed into a cast iron bathtub. There was a bathtub submerged in this lake. Wow. Where the slide did, and he had a massive collision, massive head trauma, and my father almost died from that, almost drowned at the last moment. A lifeguard pulled him out of the water before he lost his life. And my father ended up, he ended up going to the hospital. He ended up laying there for several weeks, and eventually he got out. But when he got out, within a couple of days, he began developing very intense migraine headaches. Very unusual for a 7-year-old child. My grandparents were obviously very concerned. They assumed that the doctors would figure out what was wrong with him, but they never did. And so my father proceeded to live with these crippling migraine headaches for the next several decades. And years later, after years of suffering, taking tons of medications, having body and organ damage from the medications, and just miserable from these headaches, my brother David was, just to tell you a bit about him, because again the story revolves around him as well. My brother David, who was a student at the University of Florida, got into a very bad car accident and was injured. His lower back was severely injured. There was talk about drugs and surgery and the whole medical route. And my brother, after being exposed to chiropractic and what it was, because I didn't grow up in a chiropractic model, never went to a chiropractor, never even heard the word chiropractic. My brother was told he should go see one. And my brother was hesitant at first, but he agreed to go. And after a few weeks of getting adjusted, my brother had full health and function restored to his body. He never needed drugs, surgery. He never needed anything. He healed naturally through chiropractic. He became so fascinated that he wanted to become a chiropractor himself. So he went off to chiropractic school, Life University, which is in Marietta, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And my brother decides to, on his break, my brother decides to come home. He's on his first year in school. He drives home from Atlanta, and he goes down to South Florida, which is a pretty long trip. And he gets home, and when he gets to the house that I grew up in, he finds my father basically having one of his migraine attacks. He explains to my father what he's learning in school, and he's able to do a brief examination and ascertain the fact that due to the trauma that my father had all these years prior, where his head collided with the bathtub, a bone was shifted out of alignment, and it was creating issues. It was creating mechanical distortion or irritation of his brainstem, which is a common finding, which, obviously as chiropractors, we find these things all the time. Atlas subluxations is what we call them, where bones are out of alignment and creating a mechanical distortion of the nerve tissue, the neurological tissue, disturbing nerve function and the brain's ability to communicate with the body, thus leading to sickness and disease. We know this as chiropractors. So my brother was able to identify, locate this bone, this atlas vertebrae, the first vertebrae in the spine, out of alignment, and he administered an adjustment, corrected the malalignment of this bone. And while he was home for a good amount of time, for probably about a month of his vacation, his break, he administered several adjustments, a whole series of them. And following that, my brother went back to school. Several months transpired, went by, and my father ended up calling my brother on the phone and told him that he stopped having the headaches. 26 years later, to this day, my father has not had one of the crippling migraine headaches. He's off all the meds that he was on. He was on a lot of different medications, and he's healthier than he's ever been in his entire life. He's 75 years old, as I mentioned, and he's doing great. And I saw that. I saw what chiropractic did for my father. It gave him his life back. No longer suffers with any health conditions, let alone the crippling migraine headaches. And what really turned me on, what ignited me, a passion inside of me, was that I finally understood, as simple as it may sound right now, I finally understood the immense healing power that each and every one of us holds within. We're walking miracles, and we have an innate organizing power and intelligence and wisdom inside of us that can mend and heal us. It can do miraculous things if only not interfered with. And my father simply had adjustments made to his spine. The mechanical interference was removed, and natural health and healing was restored to his body after all those years of suffering. And I saw that, and I said, well, forget about medicine. I just discovered something that I can get excited about. So I turned in a whole different direction. Decided that I wanted to be a healer, and in the vein of becoming a chiropractor. So I enrolled in chiropractic school, and there you have it. That's kind of the short version, if you will.
Well, it's an awesome story, an inspiring story. I mean, and had your had your brother not had that serendipitous, unfortunately in an accident, but everything has a reason, doesn't it? So that led him to a chiropractor, which he became a chiropractor. Then your dad got care, and it's fascinating because what if if your brother had never been in that accident, right? Like, where would you be? Where would your brother be? Where would your dad be today? And not only that, that's now led to you helping countless thousands of people, and your brother helping countless thousands. And that's an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Dan. And well, let me ask you too. So your dad's 75 now, and did you say he's not on any medications at all?
Yeah, he's completely drug-free. He's strong, healthy, vibrant, energetic, and he gets his spine checked every single week. He's on maintenance care, and he keeps his nervous system healthy, clear of interference. And it's powerful to watch, the manifestation of that lifestyle. And my mom as well, both of them are under maintenance care for the last many, many years. And looking around, again, a true testament to our lifestyle, what we choose, a natural healthcare approach. Yeah. You look at people like, for example, like your folks who are under my care.
Yeah, I was just about to talk. I was just about to talk about them.
or they're under my care in Orlando, and my folks are under care. South Florida is 3 hours south of me, so they live down there, so they're under the care of other chiropractors, including my brother, of course. And they look around, and they're 75 a piece, and they look around and all the people, and they talk to me about this all the time, that their friends aren't living the same lifestyle. And they're all taking 5, 10, 15 medications. This one's diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. This one over here is diagnosed with Alzheimer's now. This one just had a stroke. This one has this disease. This one has MS. And it's like all of them are losing their minds, their bodies. They're getting more medications. They're getting sicker as the days go on. And they're looking around and watching this. And it's not them, but it's to not be part of that. The contrast is immense, and they're thankful, like so many other people, like you and I care for, who live this lifestyle where it's of course at the core of it is making sure the nerve system, which runs the body, and coordinates, controls, and harmonizes all healing in the body. Making sure first and foremost, if you want to live a healthy life, that's a must. Making sure your brain can send proper signals and health expression, life expression into your body. But along with your parents, my parents, and so many others, they're living a healthier lifestyle. They choose, when possible, not to take any medications. They eat healthier. They move their bodies in better ways. They think differently. And because of that, you get a different outcome. You get a healthier outcome. When you think, live, move differently and have healthy activities that are conducive to producing health, well, fruit comes about. So whatever seed you're planting, you tend to have, there's fruit of like kind. And so healthy seeds bear a healthy lifestyle, a manifestation of healthy lifestyle. And same thing with what my parents are seeing around them. 6 seeds, seeds of lifestyles that include lots of medications, lots of surgical procedures, lack of movement, not really concentrating and focusing on dietary, proper dietary needs or supplying your body with sufficient nutrients. These considerations, well, you're going to have a manifestation of sickness. It's not a mystery to people like you and I that there are some pretty concrete principles and laws, universal laws at work. And again, what you plant is generally what you get. And that's really the good news with people who really want to embrace, who really want to just now start embracing that lifestyle. Because the great thing about what you and I do, we know this about the human body, it's very, very forgiving. In the case of my father, after 40 years of being sick and diseased, he was able to get his health back relatively fast. And that's the great message that, that you bring, your program brings, and that so many people out there need to hear. It's a message of hope.
Yes, absolutely. And look, so I'll just add on to that for our listeners. So my folks who are also in their early 70s, neither of them are on any medication, and they've been you've been looking after them, Dan, now for, it's got to be, I don't know, 13, 14 years now, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they didn't always live that way. They didn't always utilize chiropractic the way they are now as part of a lifestyle, as part of a strategy to to grow and protect their health. And in spite of my dad, who's had lots of traumas, and he's beat up his body pretty good, and he's been his one downfall it would be smoking for decades, and he's still, in spite of that, not on any medications or any major chronic illnesses. It's I'm even continually amazed. So thank you, Dr. Dan, for looking after them and putting up with their idiosyncrasies for the last 13 years or so. But testament. So then we're talking about our parents who are in their 70s now. But what would you say to the listener who has, well, that's great for, adults. What about, babies and kids, and, they might be having some reservations, or, there's a lot of negativity and hearsay and dogma in the media and stuff. And I'm in Australia, so there's tons of that. What would you say, Dr. Dan, for the young mom or dad who might be listening and thinking, yeah, that's cool for me, or I've been to a chiropractor when I had a backache, but I don't know about this whole global health and even for my kids. What would you say to them?
Well, over time, 20 years of practice now, I really learned this one thing. Yeah, it's extremely important to come from the standpoint of respecting the fact that although you and I, we live in this chiropractic world, this healthy lifestyle world, and everything's so familiar to us, that to the general population, to the general international population, there's really no frame of reference as to really, for the most part, of what we're talking about when we talk about the spine, the nerve system, controlling everything, and then along with the fact that now you're bringing kids, pediatrics, you're bringing babies, neonates, you're bringing this element into the picture, into the conversation. It's very foreign. This is very different. So I just want to start from the standpoint of not being assumptive or presumptive, of just really assuming that people even have any context of what that is. Now, I'm sure there are probably several people listening who this is not unfamiliar to.
Sure.
That people getting babies and children getting chiropractic care. In your practice, my practice, it's a very normal, common thing. But in general, really, to break it down, and speaking to the person who's never heard this before, the person's totally unfamiliar with chiropractic in kids or neonates. First off, I'll start with this. My babies, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. You have kids as well. I have another one on the way. We checked our babies at birth. Okay, I delivered. I delivered both my babies at home. I'm going to be delivering the third one at home, the supervision of a midwife. And I checked. I caught them, checked their spines immediately, because the birthing process itself is traumatic. And so the thing that, first, let's just start with this. When you think of a small, tiny spine, when we go to adjust the spine, there's very low force. There are small vibrational touches. It's more touch and pressure, very light pressure and touch into the spine. And it's all directed and focused on removing a structural impediment early on so it doesn't grow into something bigger. The neurology is delicate, and when bones of the spine of a delicate, we check newborns, we check neonates, we check infants, babies, small children, toddlers. This is what we mean by pediatric chiropractic care. If the bones are out of alignment, it distorts the mechanical integrity of the nerve system. The bones of the spine can create an interference, an agitation, an irritation, and an interference to the brain's ability to communicate through that spine. Because how is it communicating messages through the spine? It does by way of the spinal cord, and then the messages, the signals, because we know this is an anatomical, neurological fact. The brain runs the body, and it does so through the spinal cord, and then the messages that are coming through that spinal cord emanate at over 31 pairs of spinal nerves and go into every organ, tissue, blood vessel, gland. Everything in the body is directly hardwired back to the spinal cord and back up to the brain. So if any of the bones in a small child, a neonate even, move out of alignment, they will mechanically distort that soft tissue, that neurological tissue, and that will interfere with the clear communication between brain and body. And that can create sickness, disease. It can create organ imbalances. It can create things early on that may not have, and again, this is the best reason to have kids checked, because sometimes the manifestation of sickness, disease, illness, pain, issues don't show themselves until years later. But functional disturbances in the nerve system can show up very early on in terms of like a trauma. If a child has a fall, we already know this from Dr. Larry Webster, the pioneer in pediatric chiropractic. We know this from his statistics that the average baby child experiences 5,000 impacts falls to their spine before the age of 5. If you're out there, you have kids. Dr. Todd and I know this. That's not hard to believe. 5,000 impacts to their spine before the age of 5, falls, injuries, slips, traumas, what have you. So, again, for the sake of prevention, and there's so many parents who are listening right now, if you want a key preventive strategy to keep your kids healthy, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't it make sense? Why wouldn't it seem so obvious that since the brain nerve system spine is controlling the whole body, why would you not want to have your child checked for these impediments, just like you would bring your child to a dentist to make sure that their teeth stay healthy? That's the same exact reason why you would bring your child to a chiropractor. And the chiropractor is not going to crack their bones, is not going to twist their neck, is not going to break their back. That's not what they do. And again, there's a lot of misconceptions out there that need to be cleared up. It's a very gentle, light, loving, enjoyable, fun experience for the kids. I mean, you come to my office, you go to your office, the kids are laughing, the families it's a joyful, happy environment. The kids love coming in, the kids are staying healthy. And I think at the end of the day, really the only thing that matters is when you look at these families across the board who are under chiropractic, they're some of the healthiest families that I know in my community. They are the healthiest families that I know in my community. They're for the most part completely drug-free. They're not taking round after round of antibiotic. They don't have snot coming out of their heads all the time. They're not immune to your standard childhood sicknesses, but if they do get them, they overcome them more quickly. As a general rule, they are a much stronger segment of the population, the kids who are under chiropractic care. And there have been studies, the Van Breda study, there have been several studies out there that have done comparative studies that have shown kids, families under chiropractic care are stronger, healthier than the general population, generally speaking. They take less medications. They have less sickness, less disease. They're also less apt to put chemicals. The parents are less apt. They're of the mindset of putting less chemicals into the body and living a more natural lifestyle. So that's conducive also to producing a healthier population in regards to what you see in a chiropractic office. So I know that was a mouthful, but
it sure did. Well, Dr. Dan, being that this is Renegade Radio, and I like to always mention that Renegade's not about being an outlaw, but really about a renegade in thinking outside of mainstream and what is considered quote normal. Because when I look around at what's normal, it's not normal. You see all the sickness and depressions at all-time high, more drug use, prescription and otherwise, and addictions. So I don't really like what I see, and we have kids growing up in this world, which is really, really my inspiration to do what I do and to be on these shows. And I know that's your inspiration as well. So do you think, I guess for the listener, because I think a lot of challenges that the average person or young parent might have is resistance from their family, from their friends. They want to go renegade, if you will. They got to do you got to do things differently than what your friends, neighbors, mom, mother-in-law, what they all are telling you to do. So do you have any advice for that person as to, how important it is that they really need to be a renegade in their thinking and in their doing and their choices, and how to handle resistance from their own world? And
well, yeah, I mean, we could start with the Mark Twain quote. It's like, if you want to be successful in life, just do the exact opposite of what the masses are doing, and it can be more true. Whether you're looking at your finances, I mean, what do the wealthiest 1 or 2% do? They do the exact opposite of what everybody does. If you look at any segment of your life, whether against financial, relationship wise, or there's so many different things you can look at. But none is more important when it comes to health, because if you're not your own health advocate, if you don't think for yourself, if you don't research, if you don't do if you don't do the opposite of what everybody else is doing, you're going to have a problem. Because if you look around, at least I know in the U.S., you look around and you look at what all the parents are doing with their kids, all the kids that I see, they are sick. They're jacked up with tons of medications. They're on their, by the time they're 5 years old, they're on their 100th round of antibiotics. They're jacked up with tons of vaccinations. They're on inhalers. They're on Ritalin. They're on Prozac. That can't be the right way to develop a healthy family and a healthy community. To me, I just look at that and say that's wrong. That doesn't make any sense. So there's got to be a better way. So if you look around and you don't see healthy kids, but you see everybody doing the same thing and it's not producing healthy kids, you should ask yourself, well, if I want a healthy family, if I want to be healthy and I want my family to be healthy, then what is it that I need to do? Because everything that I see around me is not manifesting that. So start with that question. Start asking questions. Be your own health advocate. Be your family's health advocate. And don't be scared to step out of the box, because it's your family. It's your health. It's your family's health. It's your life and your family's life. And you have to protect it. You have to guard over it. You have to steward over it. Especially, of course, I would venture to say there's probably a lot of moms listening to the program and who want to know how to, develop a healthier family. You can't be scared. You can't be scared of risking being an outcast even because of your different, maybe unpopular viewpoints on health or regular practices when it comes to health, like things like not vaccinating your kids, or maybe when your kids have fevers, not doing anything to bring them down and not taking Tylenol or not giving them Tylenol or not giving them, Benadryl, or when your mother tells you should be giving your kids Benadryl or whatever, where you choose a different path that is going to manifest a higher level of health. You have to have the courage of your convictions. But I would say the best place to start is just look around and observe what's working and what's not working. And then a great thing to do is say, well, what kids are the healthiest kids? Look around, like, where are these healthy kids in my community? What do they look like? What do they do? Maybe I'll do my own research. Where can I find healthy, strong kids? Like, what can I model? And I can guarantee you, if you visit a local family chiropractic practice, if you stand there, and I would venture to say you're pretty much guaranteed this just about 100% of the time, just stand there. Go visit a local family chiropractic practice and watch the families coming in and out. And you'll see some of the healthiest human beings you've ever seen in your entire life. If you're ever in Orlando, stop into my office and you'll see. So that's it. I would say have the courage of your convictions to do what's right, because there's no more important area of your life to get right than your health, because your health is your greatest asset. It's your greatest wealth. And nothing else matters. If you or your children are sick and diseased, nothing else matters. And likewise, if that's the case, then you should make sure you get health and well-being right for you and your family.
That's it. So listeners, that is very sound and really quite eloquently simple advice from Dr. Dan. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you can't worry about what your friends and neighbors and family think, because A, they're not responsible for you and your family's health. You are. And, I kind of embrace the thing. It's like, I kind of want to be a renegade. Be okay with it. Be cool with the flack you're going to get. Just, just kind of embrace it. And people will start to notice, though, won't they, Dr. Dan, that, hey, your family seems to be doing really well now. What's your secret? Well, X, Y, and Z. You can keep doing what you've always done, or you can have a look at what's working over here. Like you just said, just observe. It's when you really I don't think most people are conscious enough just to stop and assess what's doing. They're like on autopilot, just kind of sheeple, just going through the motions, and they don't question anything. Their eyes aren't really open to, I don't know.
Well,
shake them up a bit.
Oh yeah. And I think, if anybody out there, for, in terms of my family, I've never, my health insurance costs are minimal. My kids have never been to a pediatrician. I've never spent money on one prescription. My kids, their bodies are trained to express symptoms, because symptoms are the cure. Symptoms are the way you develop a strong body, because symptoms detox the body. Coughing, sneezing, fevers, these are all great things. Not things to fear like we've been taught traditionally in mainstream medicine, but these are things to allow the body. These are healing mechanisms. These are healing reflexes, survival reflexes for the body. And so my girls are also, my family, my daughters are taught what health is and what not to fear, what to respect and honor, which are their symptoms, which are their bodies working properly, which is expressing symptoms sometimes. And you know what? Because of that, we live life without fear. We don't live life with fear. We live life without fear. We know the body's smart. The body's intelligent. The power that made the body can heal the body. And we rely on that. We rely on the great physician, the innate organizing intelligence within the body to heal and mend and cure the body. There's nothing to fear when you know that you're already a miracle and your body is smart and knows what to do. It needs no help to heal. It just needs no interference. And knowing that, we stand on that. Because of that, first off, these are laws and principles. These are God's laws and principles of healing in the body. These are his laws of life, health, and healing. So if they're laws, that means that just like the law of gravity, it works. It doesn't matter if you go to the top of your house and jump from the roof and say, I don't believe in gravity, you're going down. Gravity doesn't care because it's a law. It's also a law. There are laws of healing inside of the human body. And when you invest in those, when you invest in your belief and your knowing in these laws of human physiology, human anatomy, human expression, human biology, when you really set firm your knowing and understanding, which is what we do as family chiropractors. We instill this knowledge, we share, we teach, we empower, we equip patients, and by doing so, they get empowered, and you make better decisions. And what happens, by the way, when your family starts living this way, my family lives this way, their bodies heal themselves. I don't run in fear to doctors to heal or try to heal my kids. And because of that, by the way, just talking on the fiscal side of things, we have zero medical bills. So for any other reason, there are families out there who are sick, who spend the families in my community who have sick families and sick kids, they spend thousands of dollars per year. So just from the pure financial standpoint of saving a ton of money, and if you already are spending a lot of money on sickness disease, that's one reason to investigate, search, and seek a better way. Because Todd, you and I know, and so many others who are listening who are already living this lifestyle know how much money you can save when you stay healthy. And by living this chiropractic lifestyle, you stay healthy. The proof and research is there. Yeah. It's funny. Caroline and I just did a little rant on a FAQ podcast last week, and one of the questions was someone asked, how do you afford to stay healthy? And you just pointed it out. It's far more expensive to be sick than it is, it's pennies on the dollar to invest in a health and wellness lifestyle than it is to run medical care, drugs, surgeries, pills, doctor visits, never mind that, just from a fiscal standpoint, never mind the loss of quality of life and all the emotional pain. And so a valid point, man. And I know you see it in your practice and I see it in mine, and people talk about expense, and I mean, it's nothing. It's pennies on the dollar. So no excuses. So Dr. Dan, let me switch gears just for a second. As at the Renegade Family, we're really about helping everyday families overcome their challenges they might be having in their lives in some way, shape, or form. Can you tell us about a time that you or in your own family had a significant challenge or struggle and how you overcame it? Could be personally, could be professionally, and kind of what was your takeaway? What did you learn from that experience? Well, I'm sorry? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I would say just for me personally, this just has to kind of do, I'd say back to my passion. For me, I think, just going even back to the question you had about, being willing to step out and doing what's not necessarily accepted, and being willing to investigate other ways to keep yourself and your family healthy, and just looking around and seeing just looking and observing at what's working, what's not working, then have the courage of your conviction and of your passion to move in the right direction. And for me, it's something, I guess, a simple thing for me. They probably could be more dramatic stories I can share, but for me, coming out of school, I was terrified. I was petrified of being in front of people and speaking and sharing what was in my heart, what I knew about natural health and healing. Actually, absolutely petrified. In fact, in school, you had to take a speaking class to graduate, and somehow or another, I talked my way out of it. I would think I was the only one ever to graduate out of school who didn't take that class. I don't know how I got out of it, but I found a way because I was petrified, and it was a very big stumbling block for me. I was very, very shy, and and a lot of it I couldn't get out of myself, and I couldn't get out of my own head. I couldn't get past my own fears, even though I had this passion in me. I wanted to get the message out. I couldn't get it out, and I couldn't bring myself to speaking and getting in front of people and sharing and communicating what it was that was inside of me. And I remember interning when I got out of school at a chiropractic office and being so overwhelmed by the healing miracles, by the one after the other, by the hundreds each week, because the office I work in was a very high volume office, saw a lot of cases. And I remember just being overwhelmed by the power of chiropractic and what it was doing for family after family after family. And I remember seeing that and thinking to myself, how could I ever hold this back, this message? How could I ever hold it back and not get this out? And something turned in me, realizing that it wasn't about me. It was about all these people in the community. You never heard the message that I see manifested in the way of miracles, tremendous healings every single day. And so basically I forced myself to get in front of people. I set some talks up in the community as a doctor, and I got out there just tremendously petrified, but I knew that I had to overcome myself, get past myself, because I knew the message was bigger than me. And it took a little bit of internal work because of fear of rejection, fear of whatever.
Yeah, sure.
A fear of what people would think of me. There were so many deep fears, all, probably not much different than many of the fears that we've all experienced, but I couldn't get past it until I finally had the revelation that it was such a bigger message, so much bigger than me and my small world. And I forced myself. I set up several talks, forced myself to get up in front of people. And once I started doing it, I became something that I wasn't. And I still am that same person that shy person who didn't like to get up to in front of people. I'm still that same person. It's just that when it comes to my mission, our collective mission, our passion, something changed for me when I had the revelation that too many families were sick and suffering and hurting and dying because they didn't understand the message that we have, which is a message of hope, health, and healing based on foundational laws of healing inside of the human body. It's not based on whimsical, the pharmaceutical flavor of the month, or which pharmaceutical is coming out today, and then which pharmaceutical is going to be shown to kill 100,000 people tomorrow, and the whims that come and go of this fad or that fad. These are hard and true laws of life, health, and healing. These are foundational laws of the human body, and you can take them to the bank. And so, at any rate, that was at least one what I perceived initially as an insurmountable obstacle. And I had a revelation that at some point in our lives, the passion, the vision, the mission, really the vision that we have for a healthier, stronger world, what the impact that we can have on the next generation, on children, babies, by way of chiropractic care, by raising a community with clear neurology, better life expression. That's what brought me to a different place. And I think anybody can achieve that when their mission, their drive, their passion can drive them past themselves. And when that happens, amazing things can happen in your life. Amazing things can happen in your life. You can become that person that you've always wanted to become. And that was a turning point for me in my life.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Dan. And I know our listeners are thinking maybe in a different context, but I know that there's people listening right now going, Oh my gosh, he's right. You know, my fear is at the moment bigger than my sense of purpose. So we got to flip it. So your sense of purpose became so big. I have to get this message out because it's so much bigger than my fears, which I'm making about me. And by the way, Dr. Dan, I had a very similar story. I won't go into it, but I think my first talk, I was shaking. I had people walking out, and and now, you know, you and I, that we spend half our time speaking, and it's one of my favorite things to do. But I was just like you, man, just petrified. I got to run to the toilet. You know, I'll be back in a minute. You know? But for the listeners out there, whatever that is for you, your passion that you're afraid to go and do, Dr. Dan just dropped a tremendous amount of wisdom right there. That was awesome. Dr. Dan, is there a project or an idea that you're working on now that has you really excited? Anything going on, and what that might bring to people?
Well, I mean, there's always there are always projects, there are always ideas that are going on, and I think more than anything, you know, the idea of more families in the community hearing about the power of a chiropractic lifestyle. Let alone the fact that the community at large they still don't know what chiropractic is. I had someone in the office earlier tonight, and she was looking at her x-rays, going over her care plan, and going over the different details of the type of plan we had designed to help this woman. And she said, what is it that you even do here? Like, she was even referred in by somebody, but she's like, what is chiropractic? What are you going to do to help me? Is it like a massage? You know, it's like she had no frame of reference. So not only does the community still not understand what chiropractic is, but when it comes to children, babies, neonates, the topic, families being under care, it's still such a foreign thing to so much of our communities, to so many of our communities, to so much of the world. And so, yeah, that is always the vision. That is always the primary project at hand.
Educating and empowering the masses, yeah.
Educating and empowering the masses, getting the message out there by way of whatever, TV, radio, newspaper. I mean, however we need to get it out there, communicate it, because lives are at stake. Small lives are at stake, and we have a powerful message that can transform the planet overnight. And you know, you and I, it burns in us, and we're always trying to figure out. That's the global project. You know, how do we get the message out bigger, bolder, and louder?
That's it. Well, hence podcasting. Who would have thought?
Amen. And you're doing it. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thanks for sharing, matey. You just, drive the message home. And I was just going to kind of parlay what you just said there. So for the listener who might be, exactly. Well, it's all kind of foreign, but let's say they're at least open enough to say, hey, maybe I should seek out a family chiropractor for myself and my family, my kids. Because not all chiropractors practice the way you and I do or take care of children and families. Some are more just mechanical back pain type chiropractors, which is fine, not degrading them. But if someone's looking for a family chiropractor, how would you recommend they go? Obviously, best thing to do is find a referral from a friend or family who's already going. But if they don't know anybody, how would they go about finding a Dr. Dan Yachter out there in their town? Where do they start?
I would, I definitely would look for a referral, and I would search around. Of course, we got the internet, and I would search around and get a list of 3, maybe 4 or 5 different chiropractors, because it's a big decision, and it's something that once, as a family, you get comfortable with the chiropractor. It's something, the families stay with us we got families 10, 15, going on 17 years with me. And so they become part of the family. So you really want to, one, consider, ask around, see if there's a referral in your warm network. Go online, look at the top maybe 3, 5 family chiropractors in the area. And then when you go to the chiropractic office, interview the chiropractor. Make sure, if you don't have a gut sense that you jive immediately with the office, the staff, the doctor, then I would seriously consider keep moving on, and because it's a big decision. You have to feel comfortable yourself and your family, your kids. If you don't feel comfortable, especially if the moms who are listening, we know that a mom's instinct is there's nothing like a mother's instinct. So if the mother's not jiving with the office, then the kids aren't going to jive with the office.
Sure.
Obviously. So I would say that's a great way to do it. Just check out a couple different offices. Maybe if you don't have time to go there, at least call several different ones and learn more about it. The thing that you want to look for is you want to look for an office that's the primary focus. It may not be the only focus, but that's the primary focus of the doctor. That's the primary passion. That's the primary training that the doctor invests in is families. And when you go there, a couple of things you want to look for, like, for example, if they're taking care of a lot of kids and families, or they're supposed to be, or they claim they are, then you should see them in the office. You should see families coming into the office. You should see kids there when you're there. And also, is it kid friendly? In our office, when you walk in, we got a kids play area. We got things that make it fun to come to the office where kids want to be there as well. So it's welcoming. Another great resource that parents can learn more about pediatric chiropractic care, and I love this resource in the site icpaforkids.org, icpaforkids.org, and that 4 is the number 4. So ICPA, the number 4, kids.
I'll put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, so that's another great place. You can learn more about chiropractors. There's a directory there as well, where you can look up ICPA approved chiropractors or certified chiropractors. And you definitely want to ask around. You definitely want to ask and see if there's any. Again, I would start just with your warm circle, and then move from there.
Beautiful. Thanks, Dr. Dan. So kind of winding things up here, my friend. We come to the point in the show, I like to call it the Renegade Wrap-Up. So let me ask you a question regarding health, happiness, or prosperity. What was the best advice, Dr. Dan, that you've ever received? I know that's a hard one because you've probably received tons of great advice over the years. But if there's one thing that stands out that really made an impact on you, some advice somebody gave you, and how do you think our listeners could apply that advice to their lives?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Bam.
That's a big question. Wow. It's so many different things. Well, I would say, in terms of health and just in life in general, I'm not sure where I actually got it from, but probably one of the greatest pieces of wisdom, and this directly affects our health, is during what may be perceived as a stressful event or circumstance or interaction, I always try to at least ask myself the question, will this make any difference at all 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now, okay, in my life? Will getting upset or, whatever, getting my feathers ruffled about a situation, will it make any difference decades from now? And I try to look at things through the lens of keeping calm, relaxed, not only for my mental health, but for energy management. And so you can focus on what's most important in life. Because if you have energy drains, we have to, this because we have small children, energy management is key to a great life. And if you're not focusing that energy properly, it creates energy leaks, which detracts from the things that are most important, your relationship with your creator, your family, and in our case, our patients, and our calling, our professional calling. So I think it's a great lens to examine, to look at life through. Is this going to make any difference a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now? Is it going
to make a difference next week?
Right. In the heat of the moment, is it really going to make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things? And I think, I'm not perfect with that, but I think if we can keep that in our minds, I really think it can help us in so many ways, including our mental health and our physical health. And again, energy management, because that's the number one commodity that we have throughout the day for a great quality of life, is energy. If we don't have energy and great energy management, then we do not have a quality of life or a quality of health. And so there you have it.
Beautiful. Love it. Bam. Pearl from Dr. Dan. Another thing, Doc, you mentioned the icpaforkids.org as a resource. Are there any other highly recommended resources you might have for our listeners, be it a book, another podcast, a website, anything like that, that you think that they can turn to?
Well, I would say, this could relate to kids, but a lot of adults who are listening could, obviously to be better parents and just to be better, again, energy and all the different things that we want to have in regards to health. Great. And about this, the bulletproof, database online. I think it's, bulletproofexecutive.com. They have a podcast. It's the #1 health podcast on the internet. And
Dave Asbury, he's got a couple of books too. There's a diet and recipe book, and it's a good lifestyle. Yeah.
Yep. Bulletproof Diet, the Bulletproof Diet cookbook. Just great information. The dietary information, very conducive to building a strong body, strong brains. It's directly applicable to kids as well. So great resource to look out to research nutrition advice and otherwise, and of course he's extremely he's extremely pro chiropractic as well. So there's some good stuff there.
Beautiful. And just lastly, Dr. Dan, is it okay if they want to find out more about you or your chiropractic wellness center, or just want to contact you to ask a question? Is there a website or an email you'd like to put out there?
Yeah, you can. I'll give out my email. I don't mind lots of emails, so I can handle them. Dr. Yachter2@gmail.com. That's my email address. The letters EHDR without a period, YACHTER, the number 2@gmail.com.
Got it. Cool. Well, for our listeners, all those resources and websites and email addresses, we will have those in the show notes, and we'll also have a dedicated page on our website, which is therenegadefamily.com. We'll have a page dedicated to our wonderful chat today with Dr. Dan Yachter. Dr. Dan, in closing, is there any remarks you'd like to leave for our listeners before we charge off for the rest of our day or night in your case?
I just appreciate you, Dr. Todd, so much just for investing your time and your life energy into a project like this, because how else are people going to grow and learn and develop in their understanding that there is more than just one path in regards to being healthy, being well, or taking care of your health in general. Most people are just familiar with the allopathic path, but there's more to health, there's more to life than just that. And you're trying to bring an expanded knowledge base. You're trying to open people's minds. You're trying to feed, empower, and equip. And I salute you for that. So thanks for everything you're doing, man.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Dan. And I have to go a step further, and I'll just publicly say again, thank you so much for taking such great care of my folks over the years. And you're just making huge waves, and I bet you work probably more than you probably put in twice the energy that I do. So I need to be studying your diet a little bit better and your habits. He's an animal. And again, I know you've inspired and impacted me today, and I'm sure our listeners the same. So thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule and your evening to share with us. Awesome. Again, listeners, you can go to therenegadefamily.com, and we'll have a dedicated page to this episode. Dr. Dan, thank you so much again for sharing today. Be blessed, and I love you, brother.
Hey, love you back. Great hanging with you, man.
I love you, Daddy.
We're counting on you.
My mom is a renegade.
Thanks for tuning in to Renegade Radio. If you haven't yet done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a rating and review. Also, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TRFTribe. Please email us your questions for FAQ Friday, and we'll do our best to answer them in a future show. Simply email us at faq@therenegadefamily.com. If you got value from this episode and know someone else that would benefit from it as well, please share it with them.
Changing the world is going to start in your house. This is Dr. Todd, and from my family to yours, we wish you all the best. God bless, and we'll catch you soon.
Renegades, man up!